You know, when you hear the word Venezuela, what's the first thing that comes to mind? For a lot of us, it's a single story, usually one about crisis. But that's just one piece of a much, much bigger puzzle. Today we're diving into the deep contradictions of a nation that is, at the same time, a stunning natural paradise and a political hotbed. A country sitting on the world's largest oil reserves, yet one that has faced absolute economic ruin. It truly is a land of powerful, powerful contrast.
So let's go way back. Picture this. It's 1498. Christopher Columbus is sailing near the coast of South America, and he is just floored by what he sees. The sheer beauty, the massive rivers of fresh water pouring into the ocean. He was so overwhelmed that he wrote he must have found a literal paradise on earth. That was the world's first impression of Venezuela.
And that's the big question, isn't it? How did a place described as heaven on earth, a country blessed with so much natural beauty and incredible wealth, become the nation we hear about on the news today? To even begin to understand that, we have to look at its extremes.
And the first place you see these extremes is literally in the land itself. The geography of Venezuela is so incredibly diverse, it's almost like it was foreshadowing the country's dramatic history. It's this spectacular collection of total opposites, all packed into one nation.
I mean, just think about this for a second. You've got the snow-capped Andes Mountains, with peaks soaring almost 5,000 meters high. Then you have a tropical Caribbean coastline that goes on for thousands of kilometers. In the middle, these vast flat plains called Los Llanos. And down in the southeast, the ancient Guana Highlands, with those mind-blowing tabletop mountains and Angel Falls, the highest waterfall in the world. Oh, and yeah, there's even a desert. It's like 5 different countries rolled into one.
So you have this incredible, dramatic landscape. And what's wild is that the country's political story is just as dramatic. Just like its geography, Venezuela's history has been one of these intense and often really turbulent cycles of power.
And if you look at this timeline, you start to see this pattern that just keeps repeating itself. The country's history is full of these long periods of rule by strongman dictators, followed by huge popular uprisings like the one in 1958 that finally brought in a period of democracy. And you see that cycle again, but in a new way, with the democratic election of Hugo Chavez in 1998. He promised a total break from the past. And a year later, he completely rewrote the Constitution, kicking off what he called the Bolivarian Revolution.
And this is where that theme of contrast gets really, really sharp. The revolution had these huge goals: a brand new state, total government control over the oil industry, and these massive social programs for things like healthcare and education. And for a while, they actually made progress on some of that. But the period that followed has been defined by catastrophic economic and political crisis, hyperinflation that made money worthless, and one of the largest mass migrations in modern history. The gap between the promise and the reality is just staggering.
So, with all this chaos, you have to ask, what holds a nation together? What endures? The answer, I think, goes way beyond politics or economics. It's in the culture. Because through all of the turmoil, this incredibly vibrant and resilient identity has survived. And it tells a totally different story than the one we always hear.
Let's start back in the 19th century with a painter named Arturo Michelena. He was a master of this grand, realistic style, and his paintings basically became the visual story of Venezuela. He painted the nation's heroes, its big historical moments. He was helping to forge a national identity right there on the canvas.
Okay, now jump forward to the 20th century, and you get a total 180 with Carlos Cruz Dies. He was a global pioneer of what's called kinetic art. For him, color wasn't something static you just look at on a wall. No, it was an experience, something that changed and moved with you. His art literally comes off the wall and surrounds you. It's dynamic, it's alive, a totally different way of seeing the world. And of course, you can't talk about Venezuelan culture without talking about the music. It just explodes with energy. I'm talking about guys like Oscar de Leon, the pharaoh of salsa. This man became a global superstar, a true ambassador for Caribbean music, taking that incredible rhythm of Venezuela and sharing it with the entire world. Okay, and this might be my favorite example of that cultural spirit, and it's all about food. The arepa. It's been a staple food for thousands of years, but here's the thing. Making the corn flour from scratch used to be an all-day back-breaking job. Then, in the 1950s, an engineer invents and patents pre-cooked cornmeal. A brand called Pan hits the stores, and overnight, a day-long chore becomes something you can do in minutes. It completely revolutionized daily life and cemented the arepa's place as the heart of the Venezuelan kitchen.
All right, so that brings us to the big one, the economic engine that powered and, well, ultimately broke modern Venezuela: oil.
And the story of its oil is, you guessed it, a story of unbelievable highs and devastating lows.
It's actually pretty wild to think about, but before all the oil, Venezuela was all about coffee. In 1919, it was one of the top 3 coffee producers in the entire world, a coffee powerhouse.
But then, they struck oil. And not just a little. Today, Venezuela has the single largest proven crude oil reserves on the entire planet. Number 1, more than anyone.
And that unbelievable wealth turned Venezuela into a textbook petrostate. That means its entire economy got hooked on the price of oil. There's this thing economists call the Dutch disease. Basically, when so much money comes in from one thing, like oil, it makes everything else in your country too expensive to export. So while the oil industry boomed, other sectors, like farming and manufacturing, just withered away. The whole economy was balancing on a single point.
So you can probably guess what happened next. When the global price of oil plummeted, the whole house of cards came down with it. And the impact was just catastrophic. We're talking severe shortages, empty grocery stores, no medicine in hospitals. We're talking about hyperinflation that made people's life savings completely worthless in a matter of weeks. This wasn't just an economic crisis. It was a societal breakdown that forced millions of people to flee their own country.
So, where does all of this leave Venezuela right now? Well, it's stuck at this intersection of all these powerful, competing forces we've been talking about. Its incredible beauty and its deep-seated political turmoil. Its immense wealth and its devastating economic collapse.
When you put it all together, it's a nation that is just one giant paradox, right? A natural paradise trapped in political chaos. A country with more oil than anyone suffering from economic ruin, and a place with this deep, vibrant culture that somehow endures alongside a society that has been fractured into pieces.
And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? For a country that has always been a land of such dramatic extremes, of soaring mountains and deep valleys, of unimaginable wealth and profound poverty, the biggest question of all is the one that's still unwritten. What on earth comes next?